China has announced anti-dumping investigations into Canadian canola and chemical products. This comes after Ottawa followed the US and European Union's lead by imposing tariffs on Chinese-made electrical vehicles, steel and aluminium. A statement from Beijing's Commerce Ministry said unfair competition by the Canadian side had inflicted losses on domestic canola producers. It called the Canadian tariffs discriminatory, vowing it would raise the issue with the World Trade Organization. Let's get more on this from Hosuk Lee-Makiyama, Director of the European Centre for International Political Economy. Thanks very much for joining us. So how much of this is politics? How much of this is motivated by genuine concern for ensuring the sustainability of local markets in these respective countries?
Well, let's put it like this. Everything in trade nowadays is politics. And we can clearly see that this is a response to the recent Canada's measures on Chinese export on electrical vehicles. And of course, this is an exercise in political signaling more than anything else, because we can see here is that when it comes to canola, it actually accounts for less than 1% of Canada's total trade with China. So this is clear, and a signal sent to Ottawa more than anything else.
How serious is this, particularly within the global context of what the United States is doing with tariffs on China and the EU?
Well, tit for tat and trade war has become an everyday occurrence nowadays. We have seen electrical vehicles being subjected to measures between China and the United States, but also with Europe. And there are different routes towards these tariffs that we have seen. And but in the case of Canada, what we have clearly seen is that there is rather an extraordinary measure, because the tariffs are very, very high, actually more than what the WTO rules actually allow. And it will be very interesting to see how Canada will justify this. But perhaps more importantly, we need to remember that Canada is a part of the North American Free Trade Area, the USMCA, which was previously called NAFTA. And if Canada actually allowed these items to come into their economy, the United States, whether it's led by President Trump or the Harris administration, will take action against Canada and potentially impair this free trade area between Canada and the United States if the actions are not taken by Canada.
Given that context, how might the World Trade Organization manage this? Because we've seen China basically saying, let's play by the WTO rules. Please look at this issue.
Well, Canada must actually circumvent the WTO rules by basically invoke national security. And this might actually be challenged by China, and it will be very interesting to see what the justification or pretext, if you like, that Canada will take for these EV measures. Whereas if you look at China's measure, it's actually just an anti-dumping investigation, which is perfectly in accordance with the WTO rules. This is actually a part of the irony, because a lot of many countries are actually accusing China of distorting the world market, but the one that could be an infringement of the actually international trade rules in this case could be Canada.
All right, thank you so much. That is Hosuk Lee-Makiyama, Director of the European Centre for International Political Economy.